Welcome back, comrades. This is Gaming with Austin. And today, we're on episode 47 of Season 2 of the Utopian Community series. Alright, here we go. Let's get this on. We're gonna keep building the fourth floor. Like, it's called the fourth floor in North America or Russia. Third floor international. Along with putting lighting in the third floor North America or Russia, the second floor international. In the videos, how I would measure the blocks, I'd use a metric system. From ground to the highest possible building point is exactly 256 meters. $256 meters. But the Imperial system, let's calculate. Closer to 800, closer to about 840 feet, which is pretty high. The reason I choose super flat world, I do it because I'm in the beginner stages of building the commune. I'm in the beginners. Eventually, I'd start building super complex structures. Once the series has concluded, I'd start building Minecraft University. Which would actually be a spin-off of the Utopian Community series. Like the real-life counterpart of the communes would have even larger vertical farms compared to what you'll see in the series. For whom the bell tolls. Once I get this farm finished. Like, what I did earlier today, I went to a funeral for the last of my great-grandparents. It was an open casket funeral. You know, an open casket funeral, you get to see the carcass. That's how an open casket funeral works. It gives those who never seen a human carcass the chance. The stench from the carcass kind of reminds me of the stench when I dissected a frog in science. It kind of reminds me of it. Plus, after the funeral, I got to see some of my relatives I hadn't seen in a couple of years, too. The stench of the carcass you see at an open casket funeral comes from the combination of both the rotting body and the formaldehyde that is supposed to preserve it. Like, when you see the carcass at the funeral, it appears lifelike. That is because it's been preserved for that purpose. A cemetery is basically an area where carcasses get buried. where the carcass is... the carcass is a lifeless body of an animal. Yes, this includes that of a human. People often refer to the carcass of dead people as a corpse. I use the term carcass to refer to any lifeless body. I know some family members of mine see it as kind of sad, but death throughout the entire universe is ultimately inevitable. And that is because the third law states that particles must go from a higher energy state to a lower energy state to a lower energy state. I got to see my first cousin once removed at the burial site, too. Your first cousin once removed is your parents' cousin. Your second cousin is your first cousin once removed children. There are people who have cousins that are related to them on both sides of the family. That is called a... And before I start this video, I noticed Bulbapedia was down. I decided to ask Bulbagarden about it. And they're right. Yes, I'm correct. Their servers are down. Like, as of today. I will check it. I'll check again tomorrow. If the servers are down. When I said my final goodbyes to the last of my great-grandmother at the funeral, what I said was, "May the Force be with you." One last time. That is what I said. I tend to have a bit of Star Wars references when I speak, sometimes. I was talking to myself about a Fear Factor challenge involving the fluids from a donkey. Usually people live to be, in the developed world, live to be about 80 to 100 years old. The reason why a lot of African countries have relatively short life expectancies, on average, like on average the average lifespan of people in Africa is so short, that is because infant mortality rate over there is really high. Which probably explains why people in Africa have so many kids. To explain why the N-word became a really offensive term for black people, gotta go to the history of its usage by, like, it's often used by slave owners. To address slave, as a... Mom? Where are you calling, Mom? Is it... She's getting older, Mom? Gotta put one of the bitches on the couch. There you go. Got it, Mom. That's what she wanted, Mom. Yes. No problem. Back. Back to making the reason why the N-word is really offensive to black people, that is because slave owners used it to address. They used the N-word to address. They addressed slaves as that a lot. Oftentimes, the N-word was used to address slaves. Which probably made the N-word extremely offensive. Because of its usage by slaves. Oh, no. Because of its usage by slave owners. To address slaves. Who didn't meet the work requirement, like the productivity requirements for the slaves. The treatment towards slaves was kind of cruel. Oftentimes, slaves got flogged. Slaves were oftentimes flogged. oppose slavery. Because slavery is cruel. This is... You know, capitalists believe that the rich are the ones that bust our ass. Truth is, the 99% are the ones that bust our ass the most. While the rich don't do little of the work. My critique on the way we need to reduce immigration. The problem with taxing the rich is lobbyists are driving Congress into focusing only on the interests of the rich people, instead of focusing on the interests of everybody. And some of those lobbyists work for Big Pharma, which is probably why most Congress people oppose legalization of marijuana. Like before the 2018 midterm election, opposed legalization of it. That's because of lobbyists that work for Big Pharma. If we treat greed like a health issue, even though it's not a public health issue, because, you know, greed can go from one person to another pretty quickly. It can go from one animal species, like, the transmission, it's not just experience, it's also zoonotic transmission too. Like, humans see greed from, become greedy because animals become greedy. The reason why animals tend to be greedy, it's all about competition for resources, for food, for food. Some animals have huge territory requirements, like those large land carnivores, like lions, tigers, leopards, cheetahs, stuff like that. They have to live where they're, all animals have to live where their food source is. For obligate carnivores, they have to live where their prey lives. Which means they need a lot of territory. They have to occupy the same territory. Because predators who occupy the same territory... Obligate carnivores who occupy the same territory as their prey have the greatest chance of surviving. You know, we suck at hunting. The problem with trying to legalize terrorism as a means of winning the war on terror, it violates international law. It really does violate international law to legalize it. Because countries that allow Islamic extremists to destroy buildings, the United Nations need to impose sanctions on it. Countries that allow Islamic extremists to destroy entire buildings full of people. You know, whenever it goes to my politics, fiscally and socially, I'm neither conservative nor am I liberal. Because I'm all about fighting for equality. If we want a more equal society, we need to focus on the keeping up with demand, not making as much profits for your own personal gain. Like for the farmer, in the harvest season, corn takes about 90 days to harvest. Yes, actual corn. Rice tends to be more shelf-stable. I mean, that in the harvest season of rice, everybody would be given like, what drives people into eating so much from the start? It all has to do with survival. Because our body sees losing weight as a threat to our survival. When you try to lose weight and you're extremely overweight, your insulin resistance keeps you from losing weight. It's one of the problems with trying to lose weight. Insulin resistance makes it kind of hard. You know, it's not entirely our fault we're making our kids overweight. Certain medications can turn children from being healthy, children that are healthy weight for their age, to becoming morbidly obese in a relatively quick manner. The obesity problem, it's not entirely our fault we're making our kids overweight. Parents are having babies that have really high birth weights that end up being obese their entire lives. Parents are having babies that are really heavy that end up becoming morbidly obese adults. That's a problem. What can predict your risk of obesity in adulthood? Your birth weight has an effect on it. Your birth weight has an effect on your likelihood of becoming overweight or obese in adulthood. It affects your likelihood of becoming overweight in adulthood. People who are really tall, they have a legitimate reason to stay overweight. Because if they had a BMI of about 20 to 25, they'd be severely emaciated. Severely emaciated. Severely emaciated. They need that extra BMI to support their that extreme height. Meaning they need relatively dense bones. Anyways, this is it for this video. Don't forget to leave a like if you liked this video, dislike if you disliked it, subscribe for more, share this with your comrades on social media. As always, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. Subscribe to my channel. As always, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. And peace out.